All right, we are going to get started. Got a ways to go. Let me get back to where we're supposed to be. Yes. If you will put in your pass faster. No, you weren't. No, we were just getting to where we need to be for today. All right, guys, make sure again that you are in the Pear Deck and on page 28. And also remember, I will not talk over you. Right? You guys either let me get through this or you guys have to do the Ed Puzzle version. All right, peasant life. Remember, peasants were not necessarily at the bottom of the pile. CJ, we're not voting for the Ed Puzzle, right? Okay. There were serfs in Europe who were lower, for example, but their lives were tremendously shaped by the people who were above them in the hierarchy. We're going to focus on that in a couple of different ways. One, what they were provided by their superiors. What we call their superiors is going to differ from place to place. Is it a duke or is it a shogun, for example? But also what was required of them from their superiors. Okay, so what did a Hawaiian peasant have to give to his or her chief or chiefess? How was their freedom limited by their superiors? So what things were they allowed to do or not allowed to do? And in what ways were they protected from their superiors? Was there something that could help them out, could help a peasant if they had trouble with their superior? Maybe somebody would step in to give them some protection. The way peasants lived also varied depending on where we're talking about. Europe, Hawaii, Japan, North America, and the time. Right? The time difference between medieval Europe and the patroon system in North America is very different. We're not going to be able to account for all of those differences. We're going to have to gloss over some things and make some generalizations. This will overlook some people whose stories are unique and important, but it will allow us to make a basic comparison and contrast between the lives of peasants in different feudal systems. Okay. We're going to start with European peasants. You get to be a peasant in Europe the same way you would get to be a king, based on how you were born. And most of us, probably every single person in this room, would have been a peasant, just because the chances of being anything else were very small. If you are born as a peasant, you are going to remain a peasant for the rest of your life.
But like, what if the king tries to upgrade and get you?
Well, I suppose that could, but so that would fall into the category of the exceptional people that we don't get to talk about just because we don't have time. So it's not that it never happened, but if you're born a peasant, you can count on being one for the rest of your life. Now, the good news, if you want to look at it that way, is that your life isn't very long. And life expectancy was about 35 years if you made it past childhood. And most people are going to die. Well, no, I mean, childhood. Let me break this down so that it makes sense if somebody's watching the recording later. Yeah, life expectancy is 35 years if you survive childhood. Lots and lots of people never make it to their first birthday. And lots of women die in childbirth. So lots of babies die within, again, that first year. A lot of mothers die either giving birth to their children or because of complications from pregnancy. And life is short.
Wait, so some didn't even, like, some were born and didn't even make it to their first year
Right.
of birth?
I mean, that's part of the reason that the church, it was so important to have a church in your manor so that you could get your child baptized as a teeny tiny infant, because you believed that if they died before you got them baptized, your child would be in hell for eternity. And people, I mean, so that was a big part of infant baptism. In your life, if you did leave the manor, you could expect to travel no more than 25 miles from home. So you're only going to make it about halfway to Kansas City if we're thinking about it in terms of our own lives. All right. And there's lots of reasons you would want to get away from your home. You'll see the question. We haven't got there yet. Your home would be one room, a one-room hut. The construction method was called wattle and daub. They wove sticks together kind of like a basket and then coated it with mud. Any animals you were lucky enough to own slept in your home with you. And this isn't just to keep your animals safe. A big part of this is, animals have a higher body temperature than humans. And so they help keep your little hut warmer. Unfortunately, those same animals are also going to pee and poop in your house.
Could you kick them out or no?
Kick them out? Well, you could, but you want them in there to keep you warm. And there's going to be too many animals for, peasant Trey to keep track of them all and take them out one at a time to go to the bathroom. Even if you could get something like a cow or a pig to be trained that well, which you really can't.
Could you just put it in a room in the corner and then just
Well, no, because your house just isn't that big. Like, there's not. We'll kind of understand that when we get to this next point. That's a fair question, Trey. Everybody is sleeping in one spot. Okay, so there's not even room for the humans to have different spots. Guys, I want to make sure we're not voting for the Ed puzzle because we can do that. Yes, Jared. Yes, if you will put in your pass, please. If you have a phone, leave it in the box. Okay. All right. As I was saying, there's not even enough room for everyone to have a different place to sleep. The whole family is sleeping on one big pile of straw, which is almost certainly infested with fleas and lice. But you still prefer that straw to sleeping on the ground because on the ground, right, is mud. And it's not all water mud. It's manure mud. It's animal urine mud. So this is not pleasant. And your diet, vegetables, like hard, tough, dark bread. You might get some cheese sometimes. but that's going to be a real treat. Looking at that list of things in the diet, I want you to answer in the Pear Deck what's missing. Okay, don't say anything out loud. Just in the Pear Deck, tell me what seems to be missing from that diet.
Wait, do we write that on our notebook?
Once we get the right answer, we'll make sure. But for now, just answer it in the Pear Deck. Okay, and don't worry about water. So just things that they're eating. Just things that they would eat. All right, so the answer you need to write down in your notebooks is meat. Although, right, this comment, little to no protein. There's vegetable protein, but not meat protein. And fruits. Yeah, fruits weren't on there. Our focus is going to be, though, on meat. Yeah, you would get some grains in your bread, of course, and rarely you would get cheese. Meat is the thing that is primarily going to be different. All right, and to think about this, think about how much meat people eat today. There are still some parts of the world where people don't eat very much. Okay? In India, there are lots of people, for religious reasons, are vegetarians, and so they don't eat a lot of meat. Okay? But the United States, people eat between 100 and 153 kilograms. A kilogram is about 5.2 ounce, or sorry, what am I doing? No, a kilogram is 2.25 pounds. So we're talking at minimum, the average American eats 225 pounds of meat per year. Okay, and peasants essentially get zero. Well, for one thing, if you go into the woods to hunt and you're a peasant and you kill your lord's deer or grouse or whatever, you're going to be punished. Because they don't really have any, I mean, they would usually hire somebody to watch. So they would most likely catch you. Yeah. You owed your lord 2 to 3 days labor on his lands every week. So every 7 days, you're going to spend between 2 and 3 of them working in his fields or tending his animals. And the grains you were able to grow, you're going to have to pay a tax on in order to have that grain ground into flour at the Lord's mill. People don't own their own mills. You're not allowed to mill your own grain. You also couldn't bake your own bread. All right, so you pay the tax to have your grain ground into flour. The good news is that does give you the right to have that flour baked into bread in the Manor's bakery or oven. I don't want you to get the sense that it's like golden glazed donuts. There's an oven where your bread can get baked. You are also not allowed to leave the manor unless you have your Lord's permission. And remember, serfs don't get to leave at all. You also weren't allowed to marry unless you had the permission of your Lord. We saw that a little bit yesterday, the fine that you might have to pay if you did try to get married without the permission of your Lord. Well, you either had to pay money or you would probably be imprisoned for a while, maybe tortured. Yep. And part of the reason for this is you also had to pay a tax when you got married. So your lords are looking for lots of ways to take what little money you have for themselves. And you don't only have to pay money to your Lord. 10% of everything you got had to go to the church. This was called a tithe. Yes. But in this time period, I mean, a lot of it's not going to be money. You might pay 10%. You might give the church 10% of the grain you harvested. You might give them grain, eggs, some cheese, something that you were able to produce, but it's going to amount to 10% of what you have. No, it's not good to be a peasant. It is better than being a serf. If you are a serf, you are essentially a slave. I mean, it's kind of like you're almost like furniture on the manor. If the manor gets given to somebody else, you go with it. That was especially the way it was in Russia. You could also rent out your serfs to other people. Yes, Travis.
What stops them from just leaving?
Okay, so one, I mean, there are going to be people who will find you. Kind of like if you try to hunt in the king's forest. Okay? Someone will return you for maybe like a cut of the fine you will have to pay for leaving without permission. Also, if you're another lord and just a stranger shows up at your manor, you're going to know they came from somewhere. Okay? Which you might think, well, wouldn't the lord just be happy to have another peasant? Maybe not. I mean, because things are tight. Remember, when they go to cut firewood, they don't cut down a whole tree. They just cut limbs off of a living tree so that they'll grow back the next year. So another lord doesn't necessarily want another peasant on his land. So they're probably going to return you. So yeah, that's a good question. It is really hard to leave.
What if you start your own thing?
Well, you can't, because you have to get your land from another higher ranked lord. So yeah, they've got you. I mean, also with all the money they take all the time, I think Jay, you said they keep you poor, or was that Brennan? One of you said they keep you poor. Okay. If you're kept poor, you never have enough money to like set out on the road and pay for food, pay for a place to stay. So them keeping you poor also keeps you where you're at. Yes. Jared. Can you do what? No. Because it means somebody has to let you in. And if you try to go without a passport or a visa, you'll, yes.
There's actually no way. I bet you there's no way.
Yes. Yes, please, Channing. All right, guys, you've been asking some good questions. Let's make sure, right, with the questions asked. Nope. Guys, no talk about flirting, the side conversations. So, guys, remember, if we start the ed puzzle starts all over again. And you guys have to do all of watching the lecture. There's no skipping ahead. There are questions you have to answer correctly or you lose points. If we don't want to do that, we need to not be having side conversations. This is the last time I'm going to warn us about that. Okay, you do get some things from your Lord. They are responsible for protecting you. They also give you a place to build your hut. Sure, your hut's not great, but you have a place to build it, and you know where you're going to live. They also provide what you need to make your food. Yes, you have to pay for it, but paying a tax on your grain means that you get to use the mill, you get to use the oven to prepare your bread. And all of this means you have certainty about your place in life. Your life may not be great, but you know that as long as you are doing what you're told by your Lord, you always had a job and you always had a home.
It's like here. If we do what you tell us to do, we'll be okay.
That's right. I'm not giving you a house, though, Jay, just to be clear. I don't.
So we're
Okay.
peasants?
No, Jay was making an analogy. an analogy. No, you're not actually peasants. For one thing, once the bell rings, you don't have to ask my permission to leave. All right. Now we're going to move to Hawaii. Okay. And we're going to try to keep the layout the same to help make it easier to compare the lives of different peasants. Just like in Europe, you were born a peasant. You were born as a member of the Makainana, and you would stay there for life. Again, if you're lucky enough to survive childhood. Most Hawaiian peasants died before their second birthday. But this is not because of disease. This is not because of starvation. I mean, really, in terms of being able to produce food, Hawaii is pretty awesome. The reason most children died before their second birthday is that during this period in Hawaiian history, it was incredibly common for parents to kill their own children as infants. That's what infanticide means, murder of an infant. Many parents wanted only one child. They preferred males. And so when they had extra children or a female child, it was not uncommon for them to kill that child. This happened recently enough that Europeans were visiting the islands and kind of keeping journals about what they saw. And one of the things they would see is that parents would just throw an infant off into, a distant corner of the hut and leave it there to die because they just didn't want to mess with it. They didn't want the trouble. And lots of extra children are born because there is essentially no form of birth control. Okay, so there are lots of extra kids that nobody wants. And typically, right, getting to your second birthday isn't even the thing. It's getting past your first year. Okay, because let's face it, in that first year, babies are really demanding. They need lots and lots of stuff. If you're a parent and you don't want that kid, you're not going to put up with that. And many of them didn't. Also, because males were preferred, more females than males were killed. That kind of thing still happens. It happened in China. It's very much still happening in India today. So, to connect this to you, right, please choose from one of the options. Where are you in the birth order of your brothers and sisters? Are you the first child, second child, fourth child, only child? Like, where do you fit?
Bro was the second child. I was the fourth of more, literally.
Oh wait, should I call my daddy's side? I have like 6 left.
I'm the oldest.
It's really not a fight.
I have that many too.
Second. I'm gonna be just like my father.
You have a lot of sisters?
I kissed
All right, so 5 of you are okay. Well, 5 of you if you are also a male. All right? If you were a female, being first doesn't save you. If you're a male and you were able to select that you're the first, you're in good shape. So, Georgia, you look worried, right? So, second, man, not looking good. Those of you down here in the third or fourth or more, good luck, right? I mean, by the time they've gotten to 4, if any of those have made it, they are really sick and tired of kids, and your chances are low. Yeah, but you guys don't actually have to worry because you weren't born into Hawaii's feudal system. If you do get to survive, there's some good and some bad. Everybody in the village lives in a single hut. We're not just talking about your family. Everybody lives in the same hut. Yep. I think partly because, they could. Just the climate is nicer. Yeah, so you don't need to have little smaller huts to try to keep warm. So I mean that's part of it. Some of it I don't fully understand. They also lived with pigs and dogs, which you don't need for warmth really in Hawaii. So I'm not sure why they did that. One of the downsides, I know we talked about the piles of straw being infested with fleas and lice, but everybody is infested with fleas and lice. Hawaii doesn't have a winter to kill stuff off. Okay? So those fleas and lice get to breed and reproduce all year long, indoors and outdoors. And when Europeans got there, just fleas are everywhere. And they're like mosquitoes for us. Hawaii actually didn't have mosquitoes until they got brought there by a European ship. But they did have lots of fleas and lice. But, I mean, on the other hand, you kind of always have a snack with you because this was another thing that Europeans observed. And this was not just made up to make the Hawaiians look bad.
Hey, who's eating that?
Okay, well, I mean, think about little kids eating their boogers, right? Little kids will do that until you, well, no. So, like, Georgia, I get, like, how you see that as different. And I mean, I do understand where you're coming from. But just remember, like, if as a little kid, nobody told you stop doing that, it's gross, think about how many grown-ups would be out there still doing it. And some of them still are, right? So it's just, don't judge them too harshly for that. All right, now, men, this is another thing to pay attention to, especially for female students. And men and women ate in different huts. There's a lot of segregation. If a woman was menstruating, those of you who haven't had a health class yet, that means having her period, you were not allowed to stay in the same hut as everybody else. They sent you off somewhere separate until that was over. Okay. And as a final little bit of spice in your life, partly because everyone's being bitten by fleas and scratching at lice all the time, and it's warm year-round, people tended to get skin ulcers. They also got scabies. Scabies are little parasites that burrow under your skin. If you ever kind of have an itch that doesn't go away and you happen to notice there are little brown lines under your skin, that might be scabies. Those little brown lines are poop from the scabies as they're eating tissue underneath the surface of your skin. In the United States, scabies are basically like a sexually transmitted condition, but in places like this, they were just a common parasite. Yep, we're going to stop there. Okay, guys, you need to head. Nope, don't do that, Preston. You need to head back to Canvas for your exit slip.
Are you being serious?
Yes.
These people munch on their lives?
Yes. They did. They don't still do. Yeah, Trevor. Okay.
But I did write my notes.
Okay, so what we'll do, talk to me after you finish the quiz. I think you'll get through it fast.